it's important to understand how much habit plays in creating rapport. We all operate from habits. Majority of things we do are out of habits.
G'day, Damien. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. I'm faring very well. Bit cool, but it's that time of year.
And I'm excited because we're talking about rapport, and we both know how crucial that is in sales growth. What does rapport mean for you, Damien?
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. I love that question. From that perspective, and I look at our relationship because we immediately, from the day we met, we had a great rapport. We just connected. And part of that rapport for me has always been about finding the things that you have in common. And sometimes you can, create that as well. And you can even take that a whole step further with unconscious rapport as well. So it's finding that part of being that commonality.
Yeah, that is, it's like reducing the differences or understanding what you have in common. And
Mm,
we know in the sales environment, some people like you and I just naturally click.
mm,
And I'm sure participants in the masterclass think, well, yeah, there's some clients I met, I just naturally click with. They get me, I get them, and it's easy. And it's good to understand what's making that relationship work when it does click, and attempt to transfer some of those ideas into clients that you find more challenging. Because if you can sell to the more challenging clients, that's more likely to result in sales growth because you'll be selling already to the clients that you get along well with. If you're looking for growth, it might be an idea to think about, well, how can I build rapport with some of the clients I feel a bit more challenged by? Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
it does, and part of the challenge that salespeople have is the natural wall that goes up that people immediately have that someone's going to sell them something, and
Yeah.
so it's part of that creating rapport. From my experience, anyways, is having a more welcoming attitude that I'm not here to sell you something, I'm here to help
Yeah.
you, and I'm just here to find out information, and so having that process, being able to go in with that relaxed mindset. We've talked about mindset in other videos, but from a rapport perspective, I found just coming in with, as you would a friend. When you go and meet a friend,
Yeah.
you don't go in with this tension. You don't go, oh, well, sometimes
No.
you do, but generally you don't. And it's one of those
Absolutely.
things. If you have that approach, I found it's much easier to create that initial rapport.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I like the idea of like when the call begins or when the sales meeting begins, particularly with a client that you don't know well or with a client you know well but you find challenging. You think, well,
Mm.
my first objective in this sales meeting or the sales call is to establish a relationship that works for the client, wherein we can both achieve outcomes together.
Mm.
And that's how I look at rapport. And I'm not thinking about what can I sell to this person, because particularly if it's a new client or it's a new product or a new service that you're introducing to a client, it may not be appropriate for them. And we'll learn how well rapport works in with understanding needs and decision making, because it may not be the right product or the right service for them at this time. So we take the pressure off the outcome, and our focus in the rapport part is just the continuing to establish and build great relationships, which is really what it's about.
Yeah, and the other part of that, it's a great point that you've had there. To add to that, you really, it's important to understand how much habit plays in creating rapport. We all operate from habits. Majority of things we do are out of habits. And that's part of where
Yeah.
the next gen sales masterclass really comes in to play, is because it's about how do you create a new habit? Because it's one thing to have the knowledge, but we don't act from our conscious mind. We act from our unconscious mind. And that's part of the process we need to take people through. And I love doing that. I love working people through that process and being really active with them. It's not theory, it's here, this is how you do that. And they start to integrate that. And when they integrate it, they feel more relaxed, and able to then just implement really, really well and really fast too. The change can happen really, really quickly.
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen fast. And one of the things I love in our Next Gen Sales Masterclass is we'll have a big group of people in the room, and ideally, what we'll be doing is getting people to practice these techniques and these tools on people that are very different than them and that are likely to be complete strangers to them. Though some people, some organisations send groups to the masterclass. You may
Mm,
be the one individual from your organisation attending the group session. And what we'll do is we'll pair people up that are quite different than each other.
mm.
And rather than just us say, hey, here's what works in building rapport, you'll see how it works live in the room, not just for yourself, but for everyone else. And you'll see, hey, this actually does work.
It
And
does
you
work.
will
It works
find
very well. It's very powerful.
it works really well. And I love watching it work, particularly watching people like say for one of my favorites is pairing up an introvert with an extrovert because often
Mm.
extroverts find introverts challenging and introverts find extroverts challenging uh, because a lot of salespeople are probably more likely to be on the extroverted end of the bell curve,
Mm.
and a lot of the more technical clients are more likely to be on the introverted end. They
Yeah.
think, well, how do I do that? And that's one thing I love to explore with the guys in the masterclass to say, how do I do this?
Well, that's the
How
interesting
how
component.
do it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
component that you brought up there between introverts and extroverts is really interesting because, as you said, the perception is that the salespeople are more the extroverts. But what's really interesting, and we'll get into this in detail, is that the really, really good salespeople are generally introverts. And there's a
Yeah.
number of reasons for that, which we're not going to reveal right here because it's a secret.
I'm not going to reveal right now. Like it's something secret, David. It,
Exactly, but it's
it,
fascinating
it,
how
it,
that works.
it is particularly if you're selling in a technical environment. Like I've worked with people like in engineering backgrounds or technical backgrounds or selling products like Salesforce, for example. And I think
Mm,
that they're typically fairly technically minded, more introverted people and have got the technical understanding, but it's quite a complex technical sale. And you may have quite strong introverted tendencies and you're encouraged into selling because clients like your expertise. You think, well, how do I sell as an introvert
mm.
when dealing with more extroverted clients? Or the flip side, if I'm a more extroverted salesperson that's less technically minded, how do I sell to introverts? Well, how do I build rapport? Because at this stage, we're not actually selling anything to them. We're just building and establishing relationship. And it's not a matter of like old school selling said, you build rapport, then you do this. In the masterclass, what we'll learn about this is more about deepening relationships
Mm,
constantly. So that as the sales process continues, the relationship gets deeper as the understanding gets deeper and the trust gets built on this foundation of rapport.
that's the key word that you said there is trust, and that's what rapport building is all
Yeah,
about, is developing that trust because no one's going to
yeah,
buy something from you unless they trust you. And that's where rapport is
that's right.
critical because you
Yeah,
create that trust. I'm really
it's more
excited
about
about this for the next gen sales masterclass because it's just there's so much exciting stuff and it's all about human relations and I love that. It's really fun.
it is fun. I love it. I mean, my wife knows when I come home after a workshop, I'm the happiest I am after doing anything else because I just love sharing these tools and watching them work live in the room.